Roll number 242. 242. I think he's not there. Okay, 150. 150. I'm noting down the roll numbers. If I'm calling out the roll numbers and you people are not responding, I'm noting down those roll numbers, okay? One zero four. 104. Let me write the roll numbers.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll write the roll numbers first because when I'm calling out the names, no one is responding. So I'm not going to give the attendance. 104 is there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my screen is visible to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's start. So today we are going to continue with the first unit. Till now we had covered with the basics of OOP, that is what is procedural programming and what are the drawbacks of procedural the drawbacks we had seen, and we had compared that with the object oriented. So the advantages of object oriented are nothing but the drawbacks of your procedure oriented, so that we had seen various features like polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation, that we had discussed in short definitions. Fine. We are going to see them in elaboration manner when we are going to see the syllabus, the whole one. So we are going to cover individual thing. We had covered with classes, objects, the way of writing the class, objects, what is member functions, what are the data members, what are the different visibility modes. Fine. So that we had covered. So the basic structure, basic building blocks of your object oriented programming, that we had covered till now. Now next we'll move on to the most important concept. Like we have classes, we have objects. Fine. So including that, we have one more important concept in the object oriented programming, that is in constructor. Now, constructor was not there in the procedural programming. Fine, you might have not gone through this constructor in the procedural programming. It is the advantage of your object oriented programming. So it is one of the feature of your object oriented programming. So what is basically a constructor? Fine. What is basically a constructor? So constructor is nothing but you can define it as a normal member function of a class. Fine. It is similar to your normal member function. जैसे आपने अभी तक लिखा है, we have seen small codes, and in that we have written a class, and we were encapsulating data members and the member functions inside the class. Fine. So you know what is the function, how to call the function. So to call a function from the main, we need to use a dot operator with the help of an object of the same class. Fine. So constructor is nothing but I can also call it as a member function of the class. So when I'm saying it's a member function, then what type of function it will be? So the answer is constructor is a function, but it shares the same name as with the class name. For example, we had written a class clock time. So if I wanted to write a constructor for that class, the name of the constructor will be clock type. Fine. So constructor shares the same name as with the class name. If you are not writing, if you are writing a normal function name with any other name, so that doesn't mean it's a constructor. Fine. So compiler understands the function as in constructor only when the name of that particular function is similar to the class name. If you're writing it in your code, compiler automatically understands that it's a constructor and it will be executed. Fine. So the use of constructors is basically to guarantee that your data members of the class are initialized. Fine. Just imagine a condition. You have written a class. You're having a data members in that class. Fine. I have written int x in my class. Fine. And then I'm coming, ending with the definition. Now I have not initialized the data members and I'm going to print the value of the text. So what it will print? Can anyone tell me? If I'm not initializing any variable and I'm printing the data of that, what it will print normally?
Garbage value.
Garbage
Very,
value.
very good. Yes. Yes. So it will be a garbage value. Fine. So when it is against the ethics of our programming. So for excluding such type of conditions, what we will do, we will make use of a constructor in C++. Even though if I'm not writing a constructor, compiler will give an implicit call to the constructor. मतलब अगर मैंने कोड में कंस्ट्रक्टर नहीं लिखा है, still my compiler will automatically create a constructor. It will be a backside. Fine, it is not it will not be visible to your code, but compiler will give a call by itself. So such constructors which are not written by the user but they are called by the compiler directly, they are called as an implicit constructors. So basically, constructor is a member function and it is used to initialize the data members of an objects. Fine. So data members को initialize करने के लिए हम constructors use करते हैं. This is the member function. And so these are the two important things about the constructor that we need to keep in mind. Third one, the name of the constructor should be same as the class name. If you are saying that I'm writing a name, any function, and its name is not same as class, but you are saying that it's a constructor, so it is not a constructor. A function is a constructor only when it is sharing the same name with the class name. Fine. So this is the third point that we need to keep in mind. A constructor, it doesn't have any return type. There is no return type for an constructor. If you are going to write it, it will give you an error. So it differentiates this particular thing, that is return type. It differentiates your constructor from the normal member function. Fine. So what is the difference? Normal member function may have a return type. अगर कुछ नहीं है तो आप void लिखते हो, but constructor no void is written, so nothing it is going to return. So no return type. Second point, name should be same as the class name and it is used to initialize. Now, there are different types of constructors. We are going to see one by one. But prior to that, we will see some rules. जो मैंने अभी आपको बताए, I'll just revise the rules. Constructor is the member function of the class. It has the same name as the class name. It must be defined in the public section of the class. See, every member function should be defined in the public section. This we had already discussed. अगर आप किसी फंक्शन को प्राइवेट में डिफाइन करते हो या डिक्लेयर करते हो, that function is not going to get called from the main. Fine. And I want that constructor should be get called from the main, because when the constructor will get called, so a statement of object creation will give a call to the constructor. And where we are writing a statement for object creation, we are writing in the main. And hence the constructor should be defined or declared in the public section. It is implicitly called by the compiler at the time of object creation if it is not declared or defined in the code explicitly. Is it okay? So this is most important feature of C++ programming. It doesn't have any return type and it can be defined outside the class like your normal member function. Any doubt in the definition and the concept of constructor? You can raise your hands. If it is understood, we will move ahead with the sample codes and how the calling and what are the syntaxes of getting, declaring and defining the constructor. You can put in the chat box also if you don't have any doubts so that I will, go ahead. I'll wait for 2 more minutes. Otherwise, I will assume that there is no doubt. Okay, very good. So let's move ahead. Now, what are the different types of constructors? जैसे आपके functions के type होते हैं, similarly we have the types of constructors. I said, beta, you have to raise your hand. I said you have to raise your hand if you are having the query. I was waiting for 2 minutes. No one raised the hand. Yes, say 270.
मैम इम्प्लीसिट कंस्ट्रक्टर का आपने क्या बताया? इम्प्लीसिट
See, okay. Implicit constructor means see something which is not defined or declared explicitly by the application programmer. That is called as an implicit. And something which is written by the application programmer explicitly, it is called as an explicit thing. Fine. So constructor is a member function. अगर आप नहीं भी लिखोगे आपके कोड में तो C++ का कंपाइलर जो है it will automatically give call to the compiler. Sorry, constructor. And that constructor which is not written by me as an application programmer is called as an implicit constructor. Anything, any particular line, any particular header file also, which is not written by the application programmer, but it is getting called by the compiler itself. That is an implicit. Clear?
मैम नहीं समझा.
Oh my goodness. Okay. See, constructor is the concept of, it's a one of the feature actually of a C++ programming. तो आप जब किसी भी चीज को अपने कोड में खुद से लिखोगे, यू आर द एप्लीकेशन प्रोग्रामर, राइट? आप एप्लीकेशन लिख रहे हो मतलब यू आर द एप्लीकेशन प्रोग्रामर. आई एम राइटिंग द एप्लीकेशन, सो आई एम द एप्लीकेशन प्रोग्रामर. Okay, you please unmute yourself. Don't mute. So when I'm writing something explicitly, that becomes an explicit thing. मैंने अगर कोई फंक्शन लिखा, कोई स्टेटमेंट लिखा, so that is written by me, so that is explicit. The thing which is not written by me, जो मैंने नहीं लिखा है, that is implicit. मतलब compiler understand that. See out. You are writing see out, but what is the definition of see out? Are you writing it by yourself? No. Compiler understands the definition of see out. What is see out? It's an object. So I'm not going to create the see out here. I stream space see out semicolon. करते हो क्या आप? No. It is automatically known to the compiler कि जैसे ही see out आया मतलब वो already object है o stream का. Is it okay? So this is the meaning of implicit. मतलब जो compiler को already पता है उसको बोला जाता है implicit. जो application program खुद से लिखेगा explicitly in a code, that is called as an explicit. Now about the implicit constructor. When I am writing in the main, आप सबसे पहला line लिखते हो main में object creation. What is the syntax of object creation? Can you tell me? 270. What is the syntax of object creation?
पता नहीं मैम.
You don't know? You were not attending the classes.
मैम ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएशन मतलब सिंपली सिंटैक्स C++.
I'm asking you the syntax of object creation. What do you understood by this question?
मैम सिंपली सिंटैक्स C++ में क्या होता है मैम वो पता है लेकिन ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएशन का मीनिंग नहीं मालूम.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyone else? You're writing class name space object semicolon. What is that? You're creating an object, right? So that is a syntax of object creation. Now this is nothing but a statement from where your constructor will get called. Now यहाँ पे किसी भी कोड में जब मैंने ये स्टेटमेंट लिखा है class name space object semicolon, do I am writing but whether I am writing any function there? No, I'm simply writing a class name space variable name, that is object, and semicolon. मैंने कोई फंक्शन कॉल नहीं किया. I'm not writing there any other statement. But still, from that particular statement, C++ compiler will give a call to the constructor. Now, what is constructor? मैंने बताया आपको constructor is a member function of the class. It is sharing the same name as if your class name. Fine. And the most important thing is it is going to initialize the data members of your class with some values. Instead of printing the garbage values, it will print some values. ना जब हम इम्प्लिसिट अगर मैंने कंस्ट्रक्टर नहीं लिखा है मेरे कोड में तो वो गार्बेज वाले दिखाता है. मैंने अभी एग्जांपल दिया था इंट एक्स मैंने लिखा है एंड आई एम प्रिंटिंग इट, आई हैवंट इनिशियलाइज इट, तो उसने मुझे आउटपुट दिया गार्बेज. बट मुझे इंस्टेड ऑफ गार्बेज आई वांट दैट इट शुड प्रिंट मी 10 डिफॉल्टली. तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? आई कैन डू इट विद द हेल्प ऑफ एन कंस्ट्रक्टर. Is it okay? So this is nothing but what is implicit and explicit. The one which is written by myself is explicit, and the one which is not written by me, but it is understood by the compiler automatically because it's an internal feature of C++. So that compiler is called as an implicit one. Now, what are the different types of constructors? So the first type is default constructor. Fine. Now, what is default constructor? It is simply a class name with no arguments. I told you it's a member function. तो जब आप उसका syntax लिखोगे, every time there will be an opening and closing parenthesis, just like your function name. So default constructor is one of the constructor which is sharing the same name as with your class name, and it doesn't have any arguments. So this is the declaration syntax of the default constructor. Second type of constructor is parameterized constructor. Now, what do you mean by a parameterized constructor? It is nothing but a function which is sharing the same name as with your class name, and the arguments are passed. The arguments can be inbuilt arguments. Those constructor, they are coming in the category of parameterized constructor. The third one is copy constructor. In this, again, it's a member function which is sharing the same name as if your class name, but here the arguments will be the argument of type class. Now, can anyone tell me what is the argument of type class? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by the argument of type class? In one word. Sorry.
Object.
Very good. Very good. Very good. So argument of type class is nothing but an object. And here, when I'm talking about parameterized constructor, it is other than your object. Matlab, inbuilt data types. Okay. So here the parameter will be inbuilt data types, and here the parameter will be object, that is user defined. So this is nothing but different categories of constructor. Is it okay? Including these three categories, there is one more category which is default argument constructor. In that case, what will happen? अगर मैंने constructor लिखा है and I'm passing the argument here. For example, I'm writing int x. Fine. And I'm initializing that x here only equals to 0. So that category will come in the category of default argument constructor. I'll show you that in one of the examples so you will understand. Fine. So syntax, I told you, it will be in the public section of the class. इसका declaration public section में होगा. So declaration कैसे होगा? It will be similar to your class name, opening and closing parenthesis and semicolon. अगर ये default है, so it is similar. अगर parameterized है, so it will be class name, opening parenthesis, your inbuilt data type parameters, closing and semicolon. And agar copy hai, so it will be class name, opening parenthesis, object, reference, and closing and semicolon. Fine. So this is nothing but the different types of constructors. Just remember, constructor is a member function and its only task is to initialize the data members. That's it. फाइन अब कोई और ऑपरेशन कंस्ट्रक्टर में नहीं लिख सकते फॉर दैट रीजन यू कैन यूज योर नॉर्मल मेंबर फंक्शन fine so just we need to follow the ethics of the programming otherwise you will violate the like the way of writing your C++ code, isn't it? You may say that, ma'am, we can write the constructor and in that I can also write my normal code, but you are violating the definition of the constructor in that case. So when we are writing a code, we need to follow the ethics of the programming. Fine. So that is most important thing that we need to keep in mind. So only we have to use the constructor just to initialize the data member. That's it. Isn't okay? So instead of showing the garbage value, instead of allocating the memory of n different size, I just wanted to saved my memory, and for that reason I can use an constructor. Allocate करो memory उतना ही जितना चाहिए so that storage can be minimized. Now the next one is how we can invoke a constructor. So a constructor is automatically invoked or executed when a class variable is created or declared. जब आप मेन में क्लास वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर करते हो ना, क्रिएट करते हो, क्लास नेम स्पेस ऑब्जेक्ट सेमीकोलन, ऑटोमेटिकली आपका कंस्ट्रक्टर इन्वोक्ड होता है. अगर आपने लिखा है आपके कोड में, so it will be explicit, and if you're not writing it, it will be implicit. So how I can invoke my default constructor? What is my default constructor? It is a member function of a class which shares the same name as of my class name and it doesn't have any arguments. Fine. So how I can, how I can identify कि मेरा constructor call हो रहा है. So from the main, when you are creating an object, from that statement, automatically your default constructor will get called. So the syntax will be class name space object name semicolon, where you used to write this particular thing in your code. You can write it either in any function, you can write it in the main. This is nothing but your object creation, object declaration. So immediately from this statement, once you are pressing the semicolon, immediately after this, compiler will pass the control to the default constructor. Fine. जैसे ही आपने ये लाइन लिखा, automatically the constructor control will compiler control will go to the default constructor. The example is for the clock type class. If I am having your clock, so ये क्या करेगा? From here the control will go to my default constructor. What is written inside my constructor, that will be executed. What is expected to be returned? Only the initialization of the data members. That's it. Okay. How we can invoke a parameterized constructor? Similar thing. आप क्लास मेन में या किसी फंक्शन में लिखते हो क्लास नेम स्पेस ऑब्जेक्ट एंड यू कैन पास द आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. नाउ पैरामीटराइज्ड कंस्ट्रक्टर में आर्ग्यूमेंट्स कैन बी एनीथिंग. Is it okay? The number of arguments and their type should match the formal parameters. जो हम पास कर रहे हैं मेन से, those are matched with their declaration. Otherwise, the function will not get executed. Fine. One more thing is there, like can I use more than one constructor, more than one parameterized constructor in the same class? That can be a question from your side. कि मैंने एक parameterized constructor लिखा है and I am passing 2 arguments to it. Immediately after that, I am writing another constructor, parameterized constructor only, but I am passing 3 arguments. So such kind of number of constructors can be written in a code or not. So yes, it is possible. Fine. So I can write down n number of constructors in a code with different number of arguments. Is it okay? Now, जहाँ पे आपका arguments exactly match हो रहा है, वो ही constructor आपका execute होगा. If you are passing, your actual parameters will be 3 So immediately जहाँ पे formal parameters 3 है, that constructor will only be executed. Is it okay? So you can write down n number of parameterized constructor in your code. There is no limitation, but the thing is they should be differ in their number of arguments. Okay, understood till now? If you understood the concept, you will understand what I'm saying. Any doubt with the syntax and all? Yes, roll number, yes, 132. Someone is having doubt. 117, okay.
मैम एक रिक्वेस्ट है.
Yes,
हेलो. यस मैम,
yes,
अगर
you're
आप
audible.
ये समझा रहे हो टॉपिक, एक एक टॉपिक आप समझा रहे हो तो आप एक कंपाइलर पे एक हाथ कोड लिख के बताओ, तो वो समझता
I
नहीं मैम
will
ऐसे
I will
विदाउट
talk you
कुछ.
later. I will talk you later, beta, because no, there are certain constraints. We are having PBL also, right? So there we will see this concept.
बट मैम
There are the
आप
time
ये सब,
limitations also.
ये
So
बहुत से टॉपिक्स हो गए मैम, तो ये टॉपिक्स एक साथ नहीं याद आएंगे पीबीएल के टाइम. तो अगर आप एक
I will
टॉपिक
share
समझाओ
you
तो उसका
this
एक
one.
छोटा
I
सा
will
कोड भी
share you
बता
this
दीजिए.
PPT. Excuse me, can you listen to me? Who is this?
यस मैम, मेरा आवाज आपके पास लेट पहुंच रहा है, तो शायद आप.
No,
Yeah.
you are audible properly. I'm listening you properly. I will do one thing. One class I will take to demonstrate all the concepts. Fine, because when I'm taking theory, no, I need to cover the topics also. That is one major thing that I need to think of. And one important thing in this autonomy, we are having our internal evaluation, and the schedules are already there. So accordingly, we need to we need to complete your first 2 units. So theoretically, if you can see, we are having some limitations. Time limitation is there, and within that time limitation, anyhow we have to complete the first 2 units, and we have not yet completed the first unit. Still, we are having a Diwali vacations. After that, only 1 week will get, and in the third week of November we'll be having your internal evaluation. That cannot be postponed, so it will be according to the scheduled time. So if you want, I will do it, some other lecture I will take, but in the time, as per the timetable, whatever lecture is there in that, I am going to take the theory only, because otherwise it is not possible for me to cover up the topics. I wish you consider what I am saying. Roll number 117.
यस मैम.
What's your name?
मैम हर्ष.
Sorry,
हर्ष.
Harsh what?
हर्ष बोरसे.
Okay, fine. I wish you consider what I'm saying it. I will take it maybe today afternoon, if you wish. I will share the link with all of you, and you can, I will tell you how it will be demonstrated. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Maybe in today's PBL also we can take the same thing. Not an issue for 2 batches which I'm having, but for others also I will take one class. Not an issue. So let's move ahead. So till now, I wish you had understood the theoretical one. Now I'll show you the code very, how the constructor, how the syntax will be written. So suppose I'm writing my class. Now you all know how to write the class. I wish. Try to install Eclipse on your side. Fine. It's an open source software, so you can get it. Try to install it. We had seen the concept of classes and objects. At least that much part you can try from your side, writing a class and executing that class. Is it okay? So the practice you can do from your side also. So I'm writing here class A, and then I'm taking 2 variables x and y. Can anyone tell me what is invisibility of this x and y?
Private.
Private.
Private, very good. By default, in C++, the visibility of variables members will be private only. Fine. Then the public section, I'm writing a member function, print, fine. And inside that, I'm just printing the values of x and y. In the main, what I'm doing, I'm creating an object. So you can see A is my class name, space, object, and another object. Now I told you constructor is a member function of a class and it is getting called once the object is created. Fine. So where the constructor should get called? Where the object is created. So in the main, you can see I'm having a statement A space my object. So immediately after this, a compiler will give a call to a constructor. But where is the constructor? Fine. Now in this code, I'm trying to write my own constructor, explicit constructor. What is the constructor? It's a member function of a class which shares the same name as of your class name. Fine. So here I'm writing one function. The name of that function is A. You can see the name of this is similar to name of your class. Opening and closing parenthesis. Now there is no argument. So which type of constructor this is? Roll number 117. Can you tell me which type of constructor this is? Yes, Harsh. Can you tell me which type of constructor it is?
No ma'am, I don't know.
No. मैंने इतना पढ़ाया अभी आप कहाँ थे?
Yes ma'am, ये नहीं याद है.
Sorry. Okay.
याद
Anyone
दिला.
else? Initialization is done for a data members. So x is initialized to 10, y is initialized to 20. So in the capsule of my object, you can imagine x will be 10 and with y will be 20. Fine. And message is cout constructor. So immediately on your screen, जब आप ये लिखोगे ना this particular line only, बस यहाँ तक, immediately from this the control will come here and the first line which is printed on your screen will be constructor because constructor execute हो गया. Fine, you had called that constructor, it is executed. There is no need to use an dot operator to give a call to your constructor. एक्सप्लिसिटली करने की जरूरत नहीं है, ऑटोमेटिकली वो कॉल हुआ. सो फॉर माय ऑब्जेक्ट एक बार कॉल हुआ तो क्या प्रिंट हुआ? कंस्ट्रक्टर. यू कैन सी फर्स्ट टाइम कंस्ट्रक्टर प्रिंट हुआ. Then I'm writing comma your object. That means another object is there. So again it will search for a default constructor as it doesn't have any argument. तो ये किसको search करेगा? It will search for a default constructor. Let's go again inside a default constructor. Again control will come here. Again this will be executed. And the second line again constructor will be printed. That means from here it is, we can say that twice a constructor is called for my object and your object. Okay. Now after this semicolon, the control will come to this line. I am giving call to my object dot print. Now I'm giving call to a function which is a normal member function of my class. So यहाँ से control जाएगा आपके print function में. Sorry. Fine. And what I'm writing inside it, I'm just trying to print the values of x and y. What were the values of x and y? The values were 10 and 20. So print के बाद जब यहाँ पे control आया, so for my obj.x value will be 10 and my obj.y the value will be 20. So immediately this statement is executed and I will get the output as in 10 space 20. This is nothing but a space. After this semicolon, again the control will come to the next line. Now I'm giving call to the same function, but the object is different. Now here your object dot print. Again, control will come here. इसके लिए जब आपने डिफॉल्ट कंस्ट्रक्टर कॉल किया था, वैल्यू क्या इनिशियलाइज्ड हुआ था? 10 and 20. तो अभी प्रिंट में जाओगे, सो अगेन इट विल प्रिंट व्हाट? 10, 20. Fine. And after this, the control will come outside. Ending. So this is the
Ma'am?
way that constructor is called. Just raise your hands, beta. Don't interrupt in between, please. So this is the way the constructor is getting called explicitly if you're writing in your code. अगर in case आपने ये यहाँ पे नहीं लिखा है, constructor you are not writing, fine. Even though what will happen? Imagine the situation you are not writing this code. See, I'm sitting on a PC, but here Eclipse is installed, but some errors are coming. Fine. So I will identify what are those errors, and from the I will try to demonstrate you how it will work. Fine. So imagine a condition if I'm not writing this constructor. So what will happen? So from this particular line, compiler will pass the control to the implicit constructor, and in that case, x and y will be initialized with some garbage value, and that's why जब आप x and y को initialize नहीं करोगे, वो आपको print करता है garbage value. But I don't want the garbage value to be printed, so for that reason I am writing an explicit constructor. Okay, yes. Now we'll move to the questions. Yes, beta 124.
मैम वो कंस्ट्रक्टर में हम मेंबर फंक्शन भी डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं या नहीं?
Sorry, no, constructor it's already itself is a member function.
ओके मैम, फिर अगर हमने
What is
वो जो प्रिंट
constructor?
का जो फंक्शन था,
Listen here. What is constructor? Tell me the answer. What is constructor?
constructor itself, it's a member function which is invoked when the object is created.
Which is invoked when the object is created. Right. So it is already a member function. उसके अंदर आप member function क्यों declare करोगे?
मतलब नहीं मैम, वो प्रिंट वाला जो आपने फंक्शन बनाया था, अगर वो फंक्शन
Okay.
ना बना के सिर्फ उसका स्टेटमेंट हम अगर अंदर डालते तो फिर वो
हाँ,
अपने आप
चलेगा।
इन्वोक हो जाता ना, फिर हमें
Yes,
माय
yes,
ऑब्जेक्ट डॉट
yes.
प्रिंट लिखने की भी जरूरत नहीं ना.
नहीं चलेगा. You can write down the statement inside the constructor, but you ask me that ma'am can I call a function from the constructor? You asked me the
Ma'am,
question,
and
right?
one more question is,
No, you just answer
Yes,
me
ma'am.
first. You asked like that only, right? So the answer for that question
Yes.
is no. You cannot call like that. Yes, you can add the statements. आप instead of writing this, आप अगर ये चीज यहाँ लिखते हो तो चलेगा. See out x and y चलेगा, no issue. तो फिर प्रिंट की जरूरत ही नहीं है, इसी के अंदर ऑटोमेटिकली कॉल हो जाएगा और वो वैल्यूज प्रिंट हो जाएगी. इन दैट केस आउटपुट कैसे दिखेगा? इसके लिए आएगा कंस्ट्रक्टर 10, 10 20. उसके बाद थर्ड लाइन अगेन अ कंस्ट्रक्टर एंड फोर्थ लाइन अगेन 10 20. राइट?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
समझा? हाँ. So in that case output वैसे आएगा. You can write it, no issue. Yes. Next. Someone has raised the hand. 111 roll number. Clear your doubts. Hello. Any other doubt? Okay. As I told you, I can write down n number of constructor in a single class. A class can have more than one constructor. Default constructor एक ही रहेगा. Parameterized constructor can be more than one. Okay. And copy constructor can be more than one. It depends on which object you are passing. Okay. So there are no limitations for your parameterized constructor. The only thing you have to take care while providing the list of arguments. Okay, now I told you that constructor is a member function of the class. फाइन, जैसे हम नॉर्मल मेंबर फंक्शन लिखते हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल विल गो टू द प्रीवियस वन ओनली. यहाँ पे प्रिंट इज अ नॉर्मल फंक्शन ऑफ अ क्लास एंड ए इज द कंस्ट्रक्टर, बट बोथ आर द मेंबर फंक्शंस. Can anyone tell me what is the syntax of writing a member function of a class outside the class? Definition लिखने का syntax क्या है? If I want to write the member function definition outside the class. Let me ask. Roll number 241. Just wait, beta. Roll number 241.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Can you tell me, beta, what is the syntax of writing a member function outside the class? Definition of a member function.
Ma'am, we can use scope resolution.
Tell me the syntax
Operator.
properly.
Class name,
Very good.
double colon twice, and then method name.
Anyone else? You're partially right, not fully. 247. 247. 247. Okay, 247 is not there. I'll just note down. Next, 239 is there. Okay. Yes. So can you correct it? Okay. I took it, I think, 2 or 3 programs I shown you, but still you people are, I think, confused. Okay. So the syntax of writing, I told you to write the syntax in your copy also, whether you people are noting down it or not. 239, 241. Okay, but are you writing in your copy? You can also take a screenshot of this when I'm taking the lectures. When I'm saying you have to note it down. You have to note it down, right? The syntax for writing a function outside the class is return type, class name, scope resolution, and the function name. Again, I am repeating return type, space, class name, scope resolution, function name. Now it is clear? 39 and 41.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that is the syntax. So let's move ahead. My question. Okay. So I can write down the definition of an print outside the class. So my next question here, A is also a function, member function. So can I write down the definition of A outside the class? The answer is yes, I can write down because it's a member function of the class only. So this constructor, I can write down outside the class. The syntax will remain same. But as constructor doesn't return anything, it doesn't have a return type, बस वहां पे return type नहीं आएगा. It will be class name, scope resolution, function name. Fine. So I can define the constructor outside the class similar to the normal member function. Is it okay? So in that way, I can say that both the things like print and A, these two functions are same. Only thing is, इसको return type है और यहाँ पे return type नहीं है. That's it. So let's see a code where I can write down my function outside. So similar code जो मैंने previous किया है वही code है. Here I'm just defining that function outside the class with the help of scope resolution. Fine. So similar code, I have written a class x and y. I'm writing a print function. I'm writing my default constructor जो आपने वहां लिखा था same है. I'm adding here one constructor which is a parameterized one. So again A, because constructor is a function which is sharing the same name with your class name. So A, and I'm passing two arguments. Which type of constructor it will be? Which type of constructor it will be?
Parameter.
Parameterized constructor, right? Yes, it's a parameterized constructor because the arguments are inbuilt type, right? I'm ending with the class here. Fine. And then I want to write the definition outside this class. So I'm following the rule. What is my rule? Return type, space, class name, scope resolution, function name. But do the constructor has a return type? No. So no need to write down the return type. I told you void is also not valid for constructor. Compiler will give you an error. Fine. So no return type for the constructor. So what is my class name? A, scope resolution, and name of my function, that is A, and two arguments, so int A and int B. And something I'm writing inside the definition of it, x is equals to A. I'm just reinitializing x with A and y with B constructor. Now these are the formal parameters, fine, which will be replaced by my actual parameters from the main. Let's try to call it from main. So in main, I have just created an object A, my object. Now यहाँ पे कोई argument है क्या? Any argument? No. So to which particular constructor it will give a call? Yes, 241. To which particular constructor this particular thing, my obj, will give a call? Two 41. She is there or not?
Yes, ma'am.
So answer it. No. You have to unmute yourself and answer it, even though you know it or not. Tell me, to which particular constructor this will give a call? Anyone else?
Ma'am, your object.
Who is this? You are only 241?
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness. Okay. Anyone else can tell me to which function this statement will give a call? A space my obj.
Default.
Tell me the name.
A
Which is
x
that
equal to 10, y
function?
equal to 20 cents.
Tell the, what is that function called as?
Constructor
उसको
one.
क्या बोलते हो? Sorry, but what is the type of
Default
constructor?
constructor.
Yes. Huh?
Parameterized constructor.
How parameterized constructor? Are you passing any parameter to my obj?
No, ma'am.
No.
Default.
कॉपी
Default.
कंस्ट्रक्टर, ओ माय गुडनेस,
Default constructor.
यहाँ आप आर्ग्यूमेंट पास कर रहे हो क्या? आपने प्रीवियस एग्जांपल में लिखा है ना ए स्पेस माई ओबीजे, यहाँ आपने किसको कॉल किया था? At the time of object creation, when you are not passing any argument, to which particular constructor the control will go? The control will go to default constructor. अभी इतना पढ़ाया ना आप लोग को. I told you the, the syntaxes, everything. When the control will go past, how the control will pass, everything I'm telling you. How the parameterized constructor? Actual parameter formal parameter से जब match होगा तभी parameterized constructor call होगा ना. That means you people are not listening what I'm teaching. Okay, let it be. So when I'm writing A, my obj, that means there is no argument. So from here, only one person answered. So
Ma'am, you are not audible, ma'am.
Okay. So here in this case, this statement will give call to your default constructor because no argument, and this will give call to parameterized constructor. Fine, because two arguments are here. So this actual one are replaced with the formal one. They are replaced with the actual one. So A will be 9 and B will be 22. And once I will give call to these two member functions, for my object, it will print 10 and 20. And for your object, it will print 9 and 22. Any doubt in this code? As I told you, I cannot give an explicit call to the constructor. अगर आप explicitly call करोगे like this, there will be an error. At the time of creation only, you have to pass the arguments. That's it. So this is not going to give call to any copy constructor. This is not going to give call to any parameterized constructor. But this particular thing is going to give call to only default constructor. Why? Because my object is created with no argument. And this, your object, it is created with two arguments, and hence the control will passed on to the parameterized constructor. That's it. You have to see the exact match. You will be the developer, you will be the application programmer, so you know better what you are writing. Fine. So we have to match our code with the definition. आप कहाँ से call कर रहे हो? With the exact match of the prototype. जहाँ match हुआ वो execute होगा. Is it okay? Is it okay with all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You're having your next class also now. So sometimes I will just demonstrate you how the class will be written and all. Maybe in the today's PBL I will demonstrate, and for others I will take one more session for this. Okay. So let's end here. Before ending, let me take an attendance. Don't leave. Someone is raising hand. Yes, 236.
Ma'am, when you will provide this PDF?
Okay, you want it? Okay, I'll provide
Yes,
it today
yes.
only.
Yes.
Okay, today I will give.
Okay.
Okay. Other than this, also I'm having my notes. That also I will mail you. Just let me check whether it is done or not. Okay. Thank you. You all can leave.